What's up, guys? So in this video, I want to talk about the story of Ruth. And the specific moment I want to talk about is where Naomi is deciding to come back to Israel, and she's telling her two daughters-in-law to go back to their own homeland, their own families, right? So the backstory is that Elimelech and Naomi are married, and they have two sons. And in the land of Israel, there's this famine. So they go to another land, to Moab, to be able to survive. It's in this land that their two sons get married. One gets married to Orpah and one gets married to Ruth. During their time in this land, the dad dies and then the two sons die. So the three women end up together with no husbands. And they're struggling, things are getting hard. But Naomi gets word that back at home things might be looking better, so she wants to go back, and maybe she'll survive better over there. But she's telling her daughters-in-law to stay and go back to their parents. And she's like basically saying, like, you know what, this has been great, I love you guys, but I cannot provide for you, so go back to your families and hopefully things get better for you over there, because I can't provide anything for you. Right? And that's where that's where the Lord showed me a couple things. At first, they both want to stay with her, but eventually one of the daughters goes back. Right? So that's in chapter 1, verse 14. It says, "And again they wept together, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. But Ruth clung tightly to Naomi." So one decided to stay, one decided to go back home. And before I move on, that's the first thing that the Lord showed me, that this is an image of, it's like a mirroring of our relationship with the Lord. These women, they were Gentiles. They were not Jews, but they got grafted into the family through marriage, just like us, right? Most of us Christians are not Jews. And because of Jesus, we've been grafted in to the promise, to the family, right? And in their situation, things were good for a while, but then things got hard. The husbands died, right? Then there was less food, there was more struggle. And one of the daughters-in-law decided to go back to her old life. You know what? It used to be easier. Maybe I'll have better luck over here. This is too hard. I don't know if I can keep doing this. And a lot of times, there are people who will face that. Life will get hard, and it's like the parable of the sower, right? Where some seed got thrown in with the thorns. And though it sprouted and, the people clung to the gospel, because of the worries of the world and the hardship of life, that gospel, that seed gets choked out, and they go back to the way things used to be. So that's Orpah. She's like an image of that. But Ruth, she's the image of the one that perseveres, the one that is all in. You know what I mean? She's the one it's like Peter, when Jesus tells his disciples, when a lot of the disciples leave, when the teachings get too hard, he goes, "What, are you guys going to leave too?" And Peter goes, "To whom shall we go? You have the words of life." Basically saying, like, dude, there's nothing else for us. You are everything for us. You are the source of our life, right? That was Ruth. So then the next part, this one is verse 15. "Look," Naomi said to her, "your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. You should do the same." In the midst of the situation, it's about, family, right? Like, they lost their husbands and they're going back to their parents and all of that, right? It's also about like their financial status, right? Their financial situation, right? There was a famine. Who's going to provide for them now? Where are they going to get food from? Where is their stability, right? All these things. But at the same time, in the midst of all of it, it's always the battle between the gods, right? The gods of Moab, the gods of their families, versus the God of Naomi, right? Yahweh, the God of Israel, right? And one daughter-in-law decides to go back to her other gods, but Ruth decides to stay. And look what she says. Verse 16, "But Ruth replied, 'Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God.'" Right? So she chose Yahweh. She chose the God of Israel. And it's that that the Lord highlighted. That it was more than just, oh, I'm gonna come over here because I love you. Like, yeah, she loved her, but she loved everything. She loved the promise of God. She loved God, right? She left her past, right? It shows it's an image of us coming to Christ, right? And it's an image of us turning away from the world, from our past, and giving all of ourselves to the Lord. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God, right? I used to serve this God before. I used to serve this sin in my past. But what's the first thing she said? Don't ask me to leave you and go back. I'm not going back to that. And that was the thing that the Lord showed me, that should be our response to sin, right? Because she had left those things already. She was already in a Jewish family, but that opportunity came back, right? When we come to the Lord, it's not like temptations are going to be gone forever. Those opportunities will come back where it's like, hey, remember the things that you used to do? Remember this sin that you used to love? Remember all of this that you used to enjoy? These other gods, these other sins, your old masters will come back and be like, hey, remember me? Maybe I can give you a better life. It looks pretty hard with you over there. Looks like your God isn't really doing much for you. But remember the good times we used to have? And in those moments of temptation, our response needs to be like Ruth's response. Not this back and forth of like, well, God's grace does cover us, and he will forgive me. So, maybe just to like we dance around with this. We flirt with sin back and forth. But our response needs to be like Ruth, one of complete love, not one of like being forced, right? Naomi was telling her go back. She wasn't forcing her, you got to come with me no matter what. Like, no. Right? So Ruth's response wasn't one of compulsion. It wasn't one of being like, well, I guess I have to because I would love to go back, but I can't. Like, no. It was her own heart that was like, no, no, no. Don't tell me to go back. Don't ever ask me to leave you and go back. I want everything that you have. I want your people. I want your God. I want your promise. Wherever you go, right? That should be our response. That should be our heart towards the Lord. Wherever you go, I will go. Recently the Lord has been just pressing in my heart, in my spirit, this just cry of like, if you don't go, then I won't go. If you don't show up, then none of this matters. This is what she's saying. It's like, wherever you go, I will go. I want to be wherever you are going. That should be our response. Wherever God is where I want to be. Wherever my Lord is, that's where I want to go. Right? So those were just the things that the Lord was pressing in my heart of to not give up, to keep pressing in when things get hard. And Ruth, just like, I made a video a while ago about Rachel and Leah, right? How Leah is part of the genealogy of Jesus, right? Like she became part of the story of the Messiah, right? Same thing with Ruth. Because she stuck with Naomi, she became part of the storyline. She's not just some random Gentile woman that came to live with Naomi and now she's in the Jewish family, and like it's always deeper. Our cry for the Lord, our following of the Lord is always deeper than just what we see. And we may not see it realized, maybe even in our generation. But the following generations depend on our pursuit of God. Ruth ended up being the great-grandmother of David. And we know from David came the Messiah. So it's just, the more that we dig into the word, we see God's perfect plan unfolding before our eyes. And how her obedience, she had no idea that she had kings in her bloodline. She had no idea that she had the Messiah in her bloodline. But because of her pursuit of God and her rejection of the old gods of her past, God did great things through her. He did great things in her and through her. Because of Ruth's obedience, she got redeemed by Boaz, right? So she found a new husband who was an amazing man to her that took care of her, and also Naomi, right? So in her lifetime, she saw the redemption of them two in that aspect, right? She found love. She found a great man. She found a home. She found a family. But it goes even deeper because through her came David, right? King David. And the promise that God gave David, you will always have a son on the throne, right? So there's so much that God is doing through us, through the mundane, through the things that seem unimportant, and even the things that seem too difficult. Ruth could have said, you know what? Nah, I can't. This is too much. You're not even my people. I'm sorry, Naomi. I love you, but I just can't. She could have done that. And Naomi would have been perfectly fine because she was the one telling her to do that. But she pressed in. It reminds me of that scripture that those who persevere until the end will be saved, right? That's New Testament. I love it when the Lord reveals the cross-referencing of the Old Testament and the New Testament because it is all one big, perfect story. It's one big love story between God the Creator and His love, which is us. We are His beloved, His creation. Right? But anyway, I don't want to get into the whole of that, but it's beautiful. So when we read the Old Testament, it's not just it doesn't really matter anymore. Like, it does matter. Because God's heart for us is in there. And the gospel is all throughout the Old Testament. And Ruth is just a very big, obvious example of that. So when the times get tough, don't go back to your old gods, to your old sin, to your old masters. Because that was Israel's story for so long, right? The Lord would deliver them and they would have beautiful times. But eventually they would go back to their old gods. And eventually they would go back, and the Lord sees that not only as like, those are other gods, like He sees that as infidelity. How many times would He draws the comparison of when they would go offer sacrifices to their other gods, He would see that as adultery. He calls them an adulterous nation. Because He's more than just our dictator. In the book of Hosea, He says, the day will come again where you will call me your husband and no longer your master. Because we get in this place of like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And we see God as this like overlord master. But what He really is our love. He wants a deep relationship with us, right? The word says, what did He say? If you love me, you will keep my commands, right? We see things as like, oh, He's just being a dictator. He just wants us to do whatever He says. Like, no, like if you could see what these things, what our actions do, what it looks like in the spirit, our devotion to Him is our love. That's His love language, if you want to put it that way. So instead of looking at it as like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that because I'm going to get in trouble. It's like, no. When you go back to your old sin, when you go back to your old masters, what you're doing is you're going back to your old lovers. You're going back to your ex-boyfriends. While your husband has given you everything. Right? That's the way God sees it. He is our bridegroom, and we, the church, are His bride, right? The word says he's coming back for a spotless bride. That's who we are to him. But I just wanted to share that because he's just been taking me in this place of like, it's bigger than just obeying just for the sake of obeying. It's bigger than just the exterior. It's not just stay away from those things because you have to, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. It's bigger than just you have to pray and you have to read and you have to fast and you have to do this because if you don't, you're not a Christian. And if you like, these are so superficial reasons. The reason we pray is to speak with our love. The reason we read is to hear from him. The reason we do all these things is, even in the story of Ruth, when she's going to go, when Naomi tells her to go and basically like, try to get Boaz to like be her husband type of thing, she says, go and make yourself beautiful, make yourself pleasing to him. All this, like the Lord was showing me that's like, that is what you are. When we present ourselves as pleasing to him, when we stay away from sin, when we stay in the word, when we stay in prayer, when we fast, when we give him of ourselves, we are making ourselves beautiful for our bridegroom. We are making ourselves pleasing to him. It's not about checking off the boxes and making sure you do all the things right, otherwise you're going to get punished. It's about a relationship. It's about the love between a husband and a wife. That is what he's showing us. We are his bride. But anyway, I hope this blessed you guys. And I hope this sheds some light in just what our relationship needs to be with the Lord. How it's based in love and affection and just desire to spend time together. And to stay away from sin, not because, it's evil, which yes, it is, but it should be from our heart that, I don't want to go back to my old lovers, because all of this is love, is the love between us and God. But anyway, I hope this blessed you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.